Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 1697A, and today's date is October 23rd, 2018, and the title of the episode is, This is How Manufacturing is Coming Back to America. Flip the Narrative. Now, before we get started, I wanted to talk about the patriots that are fighting for our country. Every generation seems to have its own president. For some, it was Kennedy. For others, Nixon, Carter, Bush, or Reagan. Each seems to define an era. Our generation will have Donald Trump as their president. He was the one that took a shattered and broken Washington swamp and drained it of everything he saw that was bad. He will be remembered as a maverick, the man who drained the swamp. He overcame fierce opposition from Democrats and Republicans alike, a corrupt media, misinformation, and fake news to become the 45th president of the United States. Under his administration, America has seen its first major tax reform in 30 years, a renegotiation of the globalist trade deals, the termination of TPP, the process of getting rid of the central banking system, and maybe even resetting the system to make it a people's system. His way has so far shaken the cobwebs from all corners of government, and he's only halfway through. Who knows what the next half will bring? To celebrate these first achievements in a fitting and lasting way, Noble Gold has produced an exclusive commemorative President Trump 2020 Freedom Coin. Minted from 1 troy ounce of .999 fine silver, the Trump Freedom Coin is a beautiful and striking coin. The guys at Noble Gold tell me that these are being talked about all over the country. If you're a Trump supporter or you like the perfect gift for someone who is, you'll be in good company. To order yours, go to TrumpCoin2020.com and put in the code X22 and you'll receive $5 off per coin for a limited time. TrumpCoin2020.com and put in the discount code X22 and you could be holding one of these fabulous Trump coins too. Let's get into the economic collapse financial news. Now, as we can see, the economy is looking better than ever. Now, Obama was out there and Obama is trying to take credit for this economy, which is very interesting because we know this economy is based on an illusion. So Obama is taking credit for an illusion that he created with the help, of course, the central bank and others. And they kept it going. Now Trump and those working with him, they are using the same manipulation. Actually, they manipulate a little bit further to really get the economy looking fantastic. And remember, this is all statistical numbers. When you start breaking it down and you start looking at, the GDP numbers, which was shifted by $1 trillion, and you start looking at unemployment, when you start, you don't take those people that are falling off, you don't count them. The unemployment numbers come down. When you look at the stock market, that's completely manipulated. Yes, when you look at all the statistical information, the economy is doing fantastically. But when you really look at the population and how they're doing, and you look at the empty factories, and you look at the factories that have not yet come back here to the United States, it's a completely different story. When you look at the retail stores and how many are going out of business, not just the brick and mortars, but their online counterparts, you see that these stores are not doing well. They have to declare bankruptcy. They're not closing the stores and saying, something, we're doing fantastically on the internet side, and that's making the entire difference. That's not happening. When you start to look at people and how much they're making and what jobs they're getting, it's a completely different story. But what has to be done here is the illusion has to be kept alive. And the reason for this is because when the system comes down, you need to show the world that the economy is fine, and the central bankers, they're the ones who brought this entire system down. Now, we did mention that Sweden's most influential family, the Wallenbergs in Sweden, they are getting ready for the next economic crisis. One of China's largest funds is getting ready to dump stocks, and they're getting ready to protect themselves against the next crisis. Now, one of China's largest state-backed asset manager, which runs about $18 billion in assets, and which said it was preparing to sell shares in as many as 30 stocks on concern that the valuations worldwide have peaked. So there are 20 to 30 companies in China Everbright's global portfolio that are ripe for exit after they went through the initial public offerings. And they're getting out of them, and many other stocks. So we have Sweden's family, the Wallenbergs. We have one of China's largest funds. They're getting ready for the next economic crisis. And I think at this point, we realize that there's going to be another crisis. Do we know the exact date? No. But we know there's going to be one. And we know that there are two sides that are going to try to control the narrative. We've been saying this for a very long time. And Trump has been speaking out against the Fed more and more so as time goes on here, because he's preparing the narrative to blame this all on the central bank. And this is why he's been propping up the economy using the manipulation tactics that the central bank, the deep state, used in the past. They're using them now. Of course, Obama's trying to get in on this, of course, for the elections, trying to say, hey, don't forget who started the recovery. I mean, started the manipulation to fool the public. But the entire plan, the entire strategy in all of this is to bring back manufacturing to the United States. And we need to understand that over time, the deep state, the central banks, they were moving manufacturing out of the United States. Corporations were moving their headquarters, their base of operations out of the United States. Now, of course, they moved them into developing countries. China was a developing country. Their labor costs were the lowest in the world. It also offered massive subsidies and readily turned a blind eye to labor abuse and environmental degradation. But the plan of the deep state and the central bankers and what they were doing behind the scenes, they were trying to reduce the U.S. to a third world country, trying to make it so they didn't have a military, try to make it so they couldn't win a war once a war broke out, because this was part of the plan, trying to bring the United States down to the level of every other country. And this plan was set into motion a very long time ago. And what the central banks, what the deep state has done over this time, is they slowly moved out the manufacturing, the companies, and everything else from this country. And they did it very, very slowly. So no one really noticed it. Yes, you heard news reports that the middle class would be gone, that manufacturing is moving off, but no one really said, hey, we should stop this. Maybe we shouldn't be doing this, because all they saw was one company here, a couple of years later, another company there, and they didn't really recognize that this was happening all over the place. And they did this on purpose and in this manner so no one would really catch on and understand what the ultimate goal was. And today, China is the world's second largest economy. Its labor, real estate, energy costs have increased so much that they are comparable to those in some parts of the United States. By 2014, China's manufacturing cost advantage over the U.S. had shrunk to less than 5%. Add to that the intellectual property theft and unfair trade practices that China has engaged in, and it becomes clear why it makes sense for companies to bring manufacturing back to America. So let's think about this for a second. China has been built up over time. They've been stealing information. They've been stealing information from corporations. They've been stealing information from the government here in the United States. Or maybe I shouldn't say steal. They were sold this information. They were sold all of this. And over the many years, the deep state, the central bankers, they were able to build this country up from absolutely nothing to what it is today. I mean, think about what has been done here. And we go back to the Clinton server and how China, many others have access to it, how they embedded chips into a lot of the technology. This was all being done on purpose. Now, corporations, they're starting to realize what China and others behind the scenes have been doing over the many, many years, and how their information has been sold, and China is able to produce and to build their military and to do a lot of other things from this stolen information. So then we need to go back to what Trump has been saying and what he's been talking about all along. First of all, we already discussed this. We know the trade imbalances amongst other countries are very lopsided, and they don't favor the United States, because this was the plan of the deep state and the central bank. They favored all the other countries. So Trump is leveling that out. Trump has also been pointing the finger at China about how they've been stealing secrets, how they deal in unfair practices. This was all done in the past to build China up. Really what he's doing is he's letting the public, corporations, manufacturers know what China was up to. Once they start to realize what has been going on for, cheap labor, for the subsidies and everything else, companies are going to calculate and realize, well, wait a minute, they stole a lot of our secrets. They have a lot of our information. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Trump is using all of this to show companies, to show manufacturers, to show all these individuals what has really been going on, to help these businesses make a decision on why they need to come back to the United States. Because right now, American companies, they no longer have the financial motivation to sell their souls and deal with the risks. What the patriots, what Trump is doing right now, they're trying to create incentives to bring the companies back here to the United States. And Trump is talking to each one of these companies and manufacturers, telling them what has been going on, telling the public what has been going on. This is why Trump has been pushing this out there so hard and continually saying that China is dealing in unfair practices. Remember, it's not China itself. It's those individuals, the central bank, the deep state, that have been trying to destroy the United States. For a better word, they were destroying the United States. There are many empty factories. Look at Detroit. Look around the country. This has been going on for a very long time. And right now, the narrative is being flipped. He's exposing what these individuals have done and showing them what has been done. And for companies, this is very risky. Forget about cheap labor. Forget about subsidies. If you know a country is stealing your information and they know your business information, do you really want to be in that country? Do you trust them? No, you don't. And this is what he's trying to do right now, not just him, but others that are working with him, to bring companies back to the United States. So this is why we will eventually see manufacturers return to the U.S. And this will take some time. It will be over the next few years. And there'll be companies that are coming back, more than will come back. And there will be tax incentives. Maybe there'll be subsidies. But they'll make it worth their while. And Trump needs to do this. This is why he got rid of the globalist system. This is why he's been doing all of this. Because when this system comes down, the central banking system, when it comes down, we need a base to produce. We need this in place. And this is what he's trying to do. This is why he wants guarantees from these manufacturers that they will be coming back. Because if there's no guarantee and these manufacturers aren't coming back, once we get rid of the central bank system, the United States is going to be sitting here without producing anything, and that's going to be an awful situation. And remember, this has been going on for a very long time. He has, 2 years now that he's been working on this. And he has to do this very, very quickly because this system is at its end stage. So right now he's flipping the narrative, using everything the deep state, the central banks were using before against them, showing the world what they've been doing. And these individuals were just giving away all this information. You can call it stealing. You can say it was sold to them. Whatever term you want to use, they were doing it on purpose to get the manufacturers out of the United States. Because when the new system was going to be switched, they needed to bring the United States down to a certain level. Now everything is switched up. Everything's being flipped. They're no longer in power. And the race is to bring the manufacturing back to the United States so we can produce items, goods that can be sold out to the rest of the world. We can't rely on the reserve currency. We will have to produce things here in the United States once again. And this is the mission. And this is what he's pushing. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.